In the 1980s, the intense arms race between the US and the Soviet Union was becoming increasingly tense. The Pentagon believed that in the event of direct conflict, a preemptive strike on the Soviet Union was the best solution to ensure peace for America as well as its European allies. Therefore, they requested research and development of an aircraft that could penetrate deep into Soviet territory, carrying a large enough payload of bombs or nuclear weapons to paralyze Moscow's nerve centers, but had to be especially stealthy against the dense radar network of the Red Army. Faced with this complex requirement, the famous Northrop Grumman weapons manufacturer secretly planned to develop a new generation of stealth bombers with the initial name B-2. This was a top-secret project called the High-Altitude Penetrating Bomber, later changed to the Advanced Technology Bomber and codenamed Senior CJ. Only later did engineers decide to rename the aircraft the B-2 Spirit. According to estimates, about $2.3 billion was secretly spent on B-2 research and development activities in the 1980s. In addition, the additional costs from changing the B-2's role in 1985 from a high-altitude bomber to a low-altitude strategic bomber meant that its design had to be almost completely redone. Moreover, since the B-2 was one of the most secret projects of the US military, the public was unaware to criticize the excessive costs of developing this aircraft. It took nearly a decade before the first B-2 was unveiled to the public on November 22, 1988, as it taxied out of its assembly facility at Plant 42 at Edwards Air Force Base in California. The B-2's first flight took place on July 17, 1989, and was conducted by the B-2 test unit based at Edwards Air Force Base, California, known as the Air Force Flight Test Center. Born during the Cold War, with the initial purpose of nothing else but penetrating the formidable air defenses of the Soviet Union for a preemptive strike, the B-2 or B-2 Spirit was equipped with the most advanced technologies of the time. It's important to note that radar is the backbone of any modern air defense system, which is why the Pentagon sought to develop a stealth aircraft that could minimize its radar cross-section to avoid detection. The U.S. Air Force's first stealth aircraft, the F-117 Nighthawk, was a promising start, but it could only carry 2 bombs and fly over 1,400 kilometers without refueling. However, this range was still not enough to conduct a strategic strike deep into the vast territory of Moscow. The B-2 design drew upon concepts from the 1930s and 1940s when aviation engineers experimented with flying wing aircraft with no distinct fuselage or tail, like the German Nazi Horten Ho 229 prototype or the famous Horten H-16-8. This configuration provided extra lift while the smooth shape with few edges made it harder for radar to detect. However, the downside was the lack of a tail often led to instability and danger for the pilot. Fortunately, the B-2 was designed at the turning point when fly-by-wire technology became widely adopted after W-2. Fly-by-wire essentially replaces manual flight controls with an electronic system. The pilot's stick and throttle movements are converted into electronic signals that command the aircraft's control surfaces to achieve the desired response. Additionally, jet engines were a vulnerability for stealth design since their hot exhaust could create heat signatures detectable by infrared sensors. To mitigate this, the B-2's engine air intakes are located on top of the wing and air flows through S-shaped ducts to the 4 General Electric F-118 turbofan engines buried inside the aircraft. It also uses secondary inlet ports to suck in cool surrounding air and mix this with the engine exhaust before venting it to dissipate heat. Beyond that, a key feature of the B-2 is its airframe, made of special radar-absorbing materials. The skin of this flying beast consists mainly of non-conductive carbon compounds mixed with titanium, extremely expensive substances. Radar-reflective parts like the intakes, wing edges, etc., are treated with multiple coats of similar paint to diffuse returns. Additionally, the outer layer has an elastic material to flatten seams, fasteners, and joints between different components that could otherwise create gaps in the skin for a seamless exterior. It had heat dissipation mechanisms, but additionally, the B-2 Spirit has special compartments designed to release chemicals to cover the contrails it creates in the sky to disguise its presence, although these are rarely employed. To compensate, it uses LiDAR sensors to detect the contrails and prompt the crew to adjust altitude to eliminate them. Along with its impressive stealth capabilities, its payload and speed prove it is no ordinary bomber, but a true angel of death. The B-2 can carry 20 to 30 tons of weapons, fly over 1,000 kilometers per h, and has an 11,000 kilometers range with 2 to 4 aerial refuelings. This enables it to undertake nearly 2-day-long missions, especially when deployed from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri to strike targets globally. No other contemporaneously built aircraft could do this. Additionally, compared to the early Nighthawk stealth fighter, the B-2 Spirit has an APQ-181 radar, a very useful tool for navigation and scanning ground targets. It can even map out the locations of enemy fighter jets and radars on its central displays and controls. For nuclear strike missions, which were seen as its primary and only original purpose, the B-2 can carry 16 B-61 or B-83 nuclear gravity bombs mounted on racks. Its electronics are hardened against nuclear EMPs, and the crew wears special goggles to protect their eyes from the flash. However, after the Soviet collapse in 1991 ended the Cold War threats it was designed for, the USAF quickly adapted the B-2 to carry conventional weapons. It can haul 80-plus Mark 82 226 kg bombs, or cluster munitions of equivalent weight. By the late 1990s, the USAF made modifications so the Darling B-2 could deliver JDAM precision-guided bombs, the most advanced munition at the time. It can also carry AGM-154 JSOW glide bombs and AGM-158 JASSM low-observable cruise missiles, allowing standoff attacks without approaching modern enemy air defenses too closely. The beast was even designed to internally carry up to 2 massive GBU-57 bombs, able to destroy deeply buried command bunkers more than 60 m underground. The capabilities and fearsome armaments of the B-2 have been proven through U.S. military campaigns. It first saw combat in the 1999 Kosovo War. After that, these aircraft were heavily used over Afghanistan during Operation Enduring Freedom in Iraq, in Iraqi Freedom. It also frequently participated in missions in the 2011 NATO intervention in Libya. Additionally, the Super Bomber participates in exercises as a show of force demonstrating its tremendous capabilities. However, for all its advanced technologies, the American Beast has fatal weaknesses. One early flaw of the B-2 was its extremely sensitive and expensive skin. This coating cannot operate in all weather, as rain or blowing sand quickly damage it. Hence, the USAF must house it in climate-controlled hangars and devote huge logistical efforts to pampering its darling. Another factor is that as a stealth platform, the B-2 must operate independently to preserve secrecy and cannot receive any fighter escort. If detected by enemy planes, it would certainly be shot down as it cannot defend itself in a dogfight. The fly-by-wire system has also occasionally malfunctioned, a problem the USAF acknowledged in 1990. It suffered serious technical problems with its cooling system. Fixing these issues took intensive efforts from 1991 to 1999. Due to its unique shape, damaged B-2s are very difficult to repair. This was demonstrated in 2010 when an engine fire grounded a B-2 for 18 months of temporary repairs before it could ferry to a main facility, where it spent another 2 years fixing the damage, an extremely lengthy and costly process for the USAF. For more perspective on the expenses, the B-2 needs major overhaul every 7 years, costing around $60 million each time, with the process taking years because each component is unique and replaced in complex phases. Despite the maintenance and production challenges, about 21 B-2s were built and serve with the USAF. For nearly 40 years they have faithfully served American air power, surviving multiple wars and historical upheavals. With its capabilities, the B-2 Spirit remains unmatched by any adversary today, and the Pentagon expects to operate them for 20 more years or longer as the backbone of the world's #1 Air Force. So that concludes our journey today through the interesting facts about the B-2 stealth bomber, the U.S. Air Force's most fearsome angel of death for decades. Goodbye for now, and see you in the next videos.